I was asked to do a story on Bernadette EADEY, and when I was asked on the comments of one of my TikTok videos by her sister. And when she, at the time when she asked and she mentioned the prison, I was like, oh, that's interesting because I actually been to that prison, but the name didn't ring a bell. Now, when I looked up the case, I actually realized that I actually did time with Bernadette, but we call her Bernie on the compound. So Bernie is a very upbeat person to me. Like, she's a lifer on the compound. I was at Lowell Annex from 2013 to 2015, and I did the remainder of my 10-year sentence at Gas and Corrections Facility in Florida. So when I encounter Bernie, to me, she's one of those lifers that's very upbeat. She makes the best out of her time. All she does is smoke her cigarettes, and she has her girlfriends. But other than that, she stays to herself. She doesn't bother anybody, even though she is a very much like a compound celebrity. Everybody knows her. She always has a smile on her face, and et cetera, et cetera. So now I want to get into her story because I never really knew why she was in prison. I just knew that she was a lifer. But when I went and I looked up her story, she has a very interesting story. So Bernadette EADEY was born May 17, 1967. Now, she was born to a mother who was very abusive to her at a very early age. Before she was 6 years old, she was already tied to beds, abused verbally, physically, and by the time she was 9 years old, the mother decided that she was going to give her up as a ward of the state. So now she's going from foster home to foster home. By the time it was 1981, she had already been into 13 different foster homes. So this poor girl was like fed up a failure. When they ran out of foster homes that would take her in, she actually had to be institutionalized. She was put in a mental institution at a very early age, diagnosed and put on psych meds at a very early age. Now, when this happened, this is when she started her life of crime. She started committing burglaries in order to provide for herself. She had to fend for herself on the streets. So now these burglaries led to her being actually convicted to jail time at 16 years old. At 16 years old, she went to prison, and that is when she discovered older women that sexually abused her. Whether or not she realized it was sexual abuse, it was, and she was sexually abused in prison while she was serving time at 16 years old. Now, when she got out of prison from doing that time, she committed, of course, more burglaries because that's the path that she was on now. And when she committed these more burglaries at 23, she ended up back in front of a judge again. When she went back in front of a judge again, she's facing 26 years in prison. She's only 23 years old and she's facing 26 years in prison. So now this time the judge said, I'm going to give you one more chance. She had foster parents that actually cared about her. The judge released her into their care and put her on 2 years house arrest plus probation. So now, once she was released to the care of her foster parents obviously like still cared about her. She's got on probation. She's got, which is really hard to do if you don't even know how to go through life without committing crimes. Probation can sometimes be a setup. And she was in the state of Florida. So we all know how Florida is. Come on vacation, leave on probation. That's the saying for Florida. So now Bernie's on probation. She's got 2 years house arrest. And then she runs into a woman named Linda Goodmo. When she runs into Linda Goodmo, Linda is a stripper at a local club. She's actually a successful stripper because she has her own house. She can afford nice things. So Bernie was taken away by her like lavish lifestyle. So now Bernie falls madly in love with Linda to the point where she does not return home. She violates her house arrest, and her foster parents call her probation officer and let them know, like, hey, she hasn't reported home, and they issue out a warrant for her arrest. So now remember, the judge already said that 26 years is still on the table. If you violate, you're going to prison, like back to prison, because she's already been one time when she was 16 years old. She did 6 years. So now she's on the run. She knows that she's facing 26 years in prison, which when you're 23 and you're facing that much time, it seems like a life sentence. I know because I was 22 facing 10, and I got 10 years, and it was like a life sentence to me. But so now she's on the run, and she's with her girlfriend. Her girlfriend does not encourage her to do the right thing. Her girlfriend encouraged her instead to let's go ahead and go do a life of crime. So the girlfriend says that, hey, I'm gonna get the guys, I'm gonna set them up, I'm gonna bring them back to the hotel room, and then we're gonna rob them. That's their plan. That's their big master plan. So now Bernie starts committing all these burglaries in order to try to keep up with her girlfriend's lifestyle, because Bernie doesn't dance, Bernie doesn't have a job, and the girlfriend makes all this money every night. So Bernie wants to try to keep up and impress her girlfriend. So Bernie goes out, and the time where while she's has a warrant out for arrest. Bernie goes out and Bernie commits a burglary without her girlfriend. She breaks into someone's home. The home was the Carroll residence. When she breaks into this home, the two boys happened to be home. Two younger boys were actually in the home. Now, the two younger boys interrupted her while she was burglarizing the home. At this time, Bernie pulls out a gun and Bernie shoots these boys. Fortunately, they did not die. Now, they didn't die, but at the same time, the description that they gave of police was a white male. So the police are out looking for a white male. So Bernie still is scot-free for that crime, but she's still wanted for her violating her probation for the other burglary. So the girlfriend, she calls the girlfriend distraught. She says, hey, I just shot these two boys. I just committed a burglary. What am I going to do? The girlfriend says, hey, calm down. So the girlfriend says, I need you to calm down. I need you to go out and get more bullets. And Bernie does just that. She goes out and she gets more bullets for her gun at the behest of this girlfriend that she is completely love struck by. So now Linda says, meet me at the club because we got some more money to make. So Bernie meets Linda at the club, and when she meets her at the club, Linda ends up finding someone. Her target tonight was a guy named Eddie Kusa. Eddie Kusa is a car salesman, a local car salesman, very successful. He has a diamond Rolex watch on. He's spending money in the club, and Linda says that's our target. So Linda goes on the prowl. She lures Eddie in. She gets him back to a hotel room with the promises of sexual favors. Her and Bernie both go to the hotel room. Bernie falls back. Bernie turns on the radio while Linda continues to give a lap dance. Now, I don't know if Eddie was expecting a threesome, but Bernie is very much butch, so I don't really know what was going on there. But Bernie falls back. Now, while Bernie falls back and Linda's giving the lap dance, all of a sudden, Linda goes ahead and pulls out a gun and shoots Eddie Kusa in the head. Now, when she shoots Eddie Kusa in the head, Bernie freaks out. What are we going to do now? Linda says, hey, calm down. Help me get this stuff off of him. They rob him of his wallet, of his jewelry, and they get out of there. Now, later on, they were overheard bragging about the fact that they committed a murder, that they murdered some fat guy. That is exactly what they said. So now the person that they were bragging to went to the authorities, and the authorities were able to track them down. Linda got arrested first. Bernie knew that they were coming after her. She hid at a friend's house, but the foster parents again came through, and they actually told where Bernie's location was. When they told them where Bernie's location was, they caught Bernie, and they caught Bernie with the same gun that not only was committed to kill Eddie, but was also committed to shoot the other two boys that were at the Carroll residence. So now Bernie Linda's and Bernie are being charged with attempted murder, but Bernie has 3 attempted murders. Because Eddie, he did not die when Linda shot him in the head. He actually is on life support. So he was able to crawl his way out of the hotel room, and he collapsed, and someone found him. So now they're in the county jail. They're deemed by the tabloids modern day Thelma and Louise. This is the 90s. You got 2 lesbian lovers. They're committing this string of robberies, attempted murders. They're shooting people. They're modern day Thelma and Louise, and the tabloids are just eating them up. Every time they go to court, they make headlines. So now Eddie is on life support, so they can't charge her with a murder, but they really want to get Bernie. So they want to charge Bernie with all 3 attempted murders, and they go to Linda and they say, hey, Linda, we got a deal for you. We'll offer you 5 years in exchange for your testimony against Bernie. Despite the fact that her and Bernie have agreed that they're not going to say anything to the prosecution in order to better their chances of both of them walking away from the Eddie Kusa attempted murder, Linda goes ahead and takes a deal. She writes to Bernie and she says, hey, I got a second chance at life here. They approached me. They're offering me 5 years in exchange for my testimony, and I'm going to go ahead and give it to them. So basically, Bernie is like flipping out. She's so upset with her girlfriend because she thought that this was the love of her life, and all of a sudden, she's turning on her. So now she has the state against her. She doesn't have family support, and now her girlfriend, who she was madly in love with and committed all this crime for, is now turned against her as well. So now the girlfriend goes to court. She passes a polygraph test. She says that Bernie's the one that shot the guy, which is not hard to pass a polygraph test if it's somewhat similar to the truth. So now the DA says, hey, we got her now. But lo and behold, Eddie Kusa, in the process of all this, wakes up and comes out of his coma and off of life support. In this time, they go and they get a statement from Eddie Kusa, and Eddie Kusa says, that is not the one who shot me. Bernie did not shoot me. Linda is the one that pulled out a gun and tried to kill me. And then she, quote unquote, he said, the pretty one. Okay, so the DA, they're so corrupt, they're so set on getting their way with a court case that they say, you know what, this is not the narrative that we're going with, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to discredit Eddie Kusa's testimony. They get a doctor to come into court and say, is Eddie Kusa's testimony reliable? The doctor says no, because he was shot in the head and he suffered from memory loss. Now, I've never been shot before, but I'm pretty sure that if something like that happens, something that traumatic, and you remember it, you know who shot you. Okay, so now they go ahead and they book Linda and they get her for the 5 years in exchange for her testimony. And Bernie goes on to serve 5 life sentences while Linda gets 5 years. 5 life sentences while Linda gets 5 years. Okay, so now out of the 5 years, Linda only does 2 years out of that 5 years. Now imagine how Eddie Kusa feels. Eddie Kusa is distraught because he knows who tried to kill him, and it wasn't Bernie. And the person that tries to kill him only did 24 months and went home. And this is the story of Bernie, of Bernadette EADEY, who is right now currently at the Lowell Annex serving 5 life sentences. And meanwhile, her girlfriend, who she professed her love to, walked away scot-free, basically, because she only did 2 years.